Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back. This is Real Talk with Mido and Baba, Part 3. Today we just talked about some more general questions about Islam and dating a little bit. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy. Real Talk.
Did you guys decide on a question?
I guess I'll just ask two. I mean, the one that Sharif gave it, Evan one.
Okay, do you know what the 5 pillars of Islam are?
I mean, I think I know it entails like donate 2% of your income every year, is it?
2.5.
2.5. Hajj, which is like,
Pilgrimage.
I know those are two. Is 5 prayers a day?
5 prayers, right?
And then there's 2 more. It's like, does it work for the poor?
No. It's fasting Ramadan
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah.
and the Testament of Faith.
Do you know what that is?
Oh, yeah, because that's what you said. And then somebody said at, I think one of the halakas, maybe they did it live.
Well, it's the first one is believing that.
Oh, no.
God.
When we went to the Islamic Center,
Uh-huh.
someone did it live. The Testament of Faith.
It's just La ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. So it's belief in there's no God but God.
Yeah, but I remember when we went to the Islamic Center.
Yeah, there was someone who was converting to Islam, so they took the Shahada. That's what
right.
it's talking about.
I remember the 5 pillars because also we learned about it, I think, not only in school but also at the Islamic Center. But I think my first official question will be, which one do I want to go with? I guess the dating one. Like, why? Like, I mean, I don't really understand how you're supposed to meet someone, not really to go from being, I guess, close friends to marriage. I mean, I guess the only way it wouldn't be weird if the other person is Muslim. But since, like, I don't know, some half of the world is Christian, that's probably pretty hard to find.
Yeah, but we should make an effort for. I really believe that like every person should make an effort to marry a Muslim. You know, either try to meet Muslims in like Muslim events, Muslim camp, something like that. Or sometimes if when you're older you meet someone, you could explain Islam to them, and they become then they could become Muslim. But it's like, marriage is the most important decision you make in your life, because a lot of marriages end up in divorce. A lot of marriages.
Isn't it like 90%?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, no, that's relationships.
Yeah, but like I think
it's 50%.
Yeah, the divorce rate is like some 50%, 60%, something like that. And divorce has a devastating effect on children.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones who really suffer from it are the children, and it's like you can't be selfish. You owe it to your children to, when you marry, to marry someone that that is the best choice you can make. It's like, if you marry someone, you're really not choosing just on the basis of who you like, but it's who you like, and also someone who's going to be good to your family, and someone who's going to be a good parent to your children. Like when you marry someone, you have to pick someone who can actually raise their child well. Because when you can't, they're selfish. Some people, they're like, could be an amazing wife or an amazing husband, but a terrible parent. And you know, how someone who fears God is going to be a good parent, because they know that if they do something that is not kind, or not merciful, or or cruel, that they're gonna have to answer to God. But it's not. It's like it's not that you marry someone. It's not like in Islam that you marry someone that you don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, develop a relationship and everything, but I don't know.
It's just in Islam, we say you get to an age where it's an age of marriage, and then when you are in that age, you are not dating. You're actually, you're not leading anyone on just to, get their hopes up high, and then it amounts to nothing. You're actually looking for a partner. And so when you start getting to know someone, you know that you're considering each other for marriage. And, that doesn't mean that you have to marry any person you meet, but it means that, you're not just fooling around. And the most important thing is that, dating, and a lot of times it's unfair, because if it's like the Prophet Muhammad said that any man and woman, if they're together alone, the devil is their third. And what that means is, like, there's temptation, to just find yourself alone with a woman. Of course, you're a human being, you're going to be tempted. And if you're tempted and you're alone and no one sees you, then, you do things that anger God, and that will also is, a lot of kids, when they're younger, they do things, and when they get to grow older, they regret it, and they're very resentful about it. And, especially that happens more with girls than boys, but it's also unfair that it's, a lot of times boys will take advantage of the situation, and it's really, it's sort of ridiculous to put that type of responsibility on young people and say, oh, go date and be alone together, but don't do anything. Well, that's not realistic. If they're gonna go out together, even if they're alone in a car parked somewhere, or the devil is gonna start whispering to them, and it's really important in that for every human being on the face of this earth, there are, the moment you're created, there's a jinn who's a demon, and there is an angel who's always with you wherever you go. You are never alone. We think we're alone, but if you if you study, like if you develop your abilities in parapsychology, what you discover and what you can actually see them and you can actually feel them, is that there's a jinn with you and there's an angel with you everywhere you go. And these two are the ones that are going to testify in the final day, whether for you or against you. And so what, if a person, and the shaitan whether shaitan, Satan, you know, himself, or demons, they're constantly whispering to you to do what's wrong. And it's unfair, you know, that if you are alone with a girl, well, of course, you know, they're gonna be. You know, it's like coming to someone and saying, "Oh, you know, you're starving, and I'm going to put a piece of cake in front of you, but just carry it around. Don't eat it." Well, you know, that's ridiculous. It's not good. That's not the way it works. And so, and when you're very young, also, you know, your brain is developing till the age 25. And when you are the young, and you'll see as you grow older, inshallah, you know, you like when you were younger, we have a lot of impulses, and we don't have a lot of control over our impulses, and we don't have maturity either. When we're very young, we think like that we are, you know, that no one can conquer us. When we're young, we think we're never gonna die. When we're very young, we can't imagine death. Just the way our brains are wired, they're not developed enough to imagine death. When we're very young, it's very hard because we don't have a lot of experience. It's very hard to see the consequences for our actions. So I mean, if you think like um, I used to head something called the Student Conduct Committee at my school, UCLA. And one of the things that one of the things I saw all the time, is these kids in college, they go to a party, they start drinking, they either get drunk or they have a buzz, and then they end up doing something that gets them into a lot of trouble. And, you know, I actually used to feel sorry for them because, you know, although according to the law, according to the rules, I have to expel them from school and like destroy their whole future. But at the same time, I actually blamed the adults because, you know, you put them in a situation, they're very young, they don't have a lot of experience, and then you allow them to go to these parties where they drink and there was girlfriends, and then what often would happen is, you know, they drink and then they end up messing around with each other, and then the girl would wake up the next day and she starts feeling humiliated and degraded and insulted, and then she would go and file a complaint against the boy, and then the boy is accused of sexual assault or sexual harassment, and next thing you know, the boy gets into a lot of trouble. And the the main thing is that when you learn that sex is a responsibility, and that it's a very serious responsibility because it's the most intimate thing you do with another human being, and it's when there's a commitment, then it's like everything is done in light of its consequences. You're responsible for the consequences, and you have a binding relationship that basically says, okay, you know, marriage is basically like a contract for life, and says, you know, okay, if you're gonna do this, you have to be really committed to each other because this is a very huge responsibility, and that level of intimacy is only appropriate if you have a serious, firm commitment to each other. And you know, it's like what a lot of what happens is one of the reasons that a lot of people get divorced is that when you're young, you know, you try this girl, you try that girl, you try this girl, And then when you get married, you got used to, you didn't, you grew up not used to commitment. The idea of being with one person for life is something you're not accustomed to, because before you got married, it was very easy. You liked someone, you just go out with them, and then you break up with them. But so what happens then is that you enter into a marriage, and this is what happens in the society all the time. Then you enter into a marriage, and then you say, "Oh my God, I like variety. I used to go out with a blonde girl, a white girl, an Asian girl, a black girl, whatever, and now I'm stuck with this one person, and I'm bored." And then before you know it, it's like, okay, I want a divorce. And who pays the cost for this? Who pays the price? It's the children. It's not their fault. They didn't do anything for them to have to, live between two parents and, go to this home and go through custody battles and go through child support battles. And so you see this from real life experience, that when you learn what commitment is, and you don't get used to changing your partner like you change your clothes. And that's why the divorce rates are so high, is that people are not used to commitment. They're not used to marriage. They're used to change. It's like if you come to someone and you say, honestly, it's like if someone grew up getting used to playing a different video game, every month or every week, and then you come suddenly and tell them, now you have to commit to one game. Well, that's not what they grew up with. It's like, no, I'm used to variety. So how do you expect them to make a commitment? But if someone didn't grow up with the idea of a variety, and they understand that, okay, you're just going to pick one, and you're going to be committed to that one. So they're very careful about that decision. They think about it very carefully, and they only commit with someone that they really love. Like someone who is their soulmate, like their true one and only buddy. And then the relationship has a much better chance of survival. People become very much more genuine. One of the hardest things that kids go through, a lot of kids, when they tell you that they start drinking or they start taking drugs or whatever, what happens is that, they had their hearts broken by a girlfriend too many times. Because they go out with this girl and then the girl breaks up with them. And if they're an emotional type person and a sensitive type person, it really hurts. And, so it's not just that you might break up with someone, but someone might break up with you. And that type of behavior, although it's widespread in this society, but it really is bruising and very damaging, and it causes a lot of damage. It's like a lot of things in the society we do, like drinking. Although the cost is very, very high, and there are a lot of victims, a lot of people who suffer. And that's basically why. It's not that you can have a friend who's a girl, but what we say is there's a difference between a friend who's a girl and a girlfriend. It's like you can even have a best friend who's a girl. Someone you talk to, someone you write, someone whatever. But you don't go out together where you're tempted to do what's not right. That's a big difference. It's like you are always mindful of the fact that temptation exists, and it's very stupid to ignore temptation, to pretend like it doesn't exist. Really? Who are you kidding? Everyone knows that temptation exists. And the minute you're with someone you're attracted to, and the door is closed, and you're alone, the devil is going to be putting ideas in your mind, whether you like it or not. And so, and then, there's another thing that I believe is that I believe that God rewards those who are patient. If you are with God and you're like, basically, God, out of respect for you, because you told me that the only appropriate time I can have sex is in a marriage, I am going to make that sacrifice, and I'm not going to do what's wrong. God rewards you by sending you a soulmate, someone who you can, spend a life with, where you are based on love and commitment, and then the happiest moment, because you have to think of your entire life. As you get older and you find that your children appreciate the fact that you didn't make them suffer, and you didn't, you picked their mother really carefully, and that's a warm and great feeling. You feel like you've done good in your life. It's very different than when your children had to suffer and they grow up resentful, and there are a lot of problems and a lot of grievances and a lot of grudges. So I probably, will think of other things to say about that, but we could, we could take it in pieces. Because
what is the age of marriage? You said when you reach the age of marriage.
Well, I mean, in Islam, it's best to marry. As soon as a person, as soon as I believe in marriage as young as possible, but it's like, if you're over 21, then it's time to think about marriage.
Right. Got that feeling where you have to sneeze, but you can't.
That's okay. And then in the meantime, so because, Mido goes to school with his good friends, they have girlfriends, they, think about dating, so he's surrounded by this kind of thing, like, what would you advise for, because also the kids might, have an expectation that, oh, Mido, how come you're not going out with somebody? Oh, she's cute, she likes you, you should, whatever. Like, what's a good way to handle that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, I think that the best policy is honesty. It's like, well, in my religion, we don't date. We are good friends. If there's a girl that you are friends with, that's okay, and to get to know that girl, and who knows, if she's actually a really wonderful girl, then she'll become friends for many years, and then when you're over 21, who knows. But any girl that's not, that just wants to, keep herself busy, basically, or entertain herself, or it's just a crush or whatever, it's not worth it. It's not going to survive. It's not going to live. She'll get bored, and what you're doing is that you're saving yourself a ton of heartache, because if she's gonna get bored, and it's just gonna last 6 months or 1 year, and then she'll move on to someone else. So it's like anything that is worth anything is gonna wait for you. If a person is not gonna wait, they're not worth it. And I really believe that the best policy is just honesty, saying, in our religion, in my religion, we don't date because we don't believe in premarital sex. And remember that it's not just Muslims. Like, Miriam, right? Miriam never dated. She's from a Christian family, but in her Christianity, the way she was raised by her parents, she converted to Islam, but she grew up as a Christian. In her Christianity, she never dated, her sisters never dated, And when she was going to school, a lot of other Christian families would say, well, why aren't you dating? And she'd say, my Christianity would not allow to date. And she never got married, and she's still a virgin. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you'd be surprised. I mean, one of the things is that one thing that I learned from just, I've been in this country now for 30 years, or more than 30 years, is that a lot of kids lie about their experiences. And it's, if you really respect someone, you don't talk about someone's, anyone that talks like, I did this with this girl, is not respectful. This is, stuff that intimacy is not a proper topic for intimacy is not a proper topic for what's the word I'm looking for?
Conversation.
Or gossip. Or
Gossip, and gossip and bragging. And it's not. That's the most special thing that you share with a human being, and it's not appropriate. If you brag about it or you gossip about it, then it's not. Then that relationship is not respectful. It's not a good relationship. And the person who does it is not a good person. And you should. Any friend that tries to gossip with you about stuff like that, it's if when I was your age, I would just, because in the school when I was growing up, there are a lot of kids in my school who dated, and I just tell them, if you respected this woman, you wouldn't talk about her this way. Even if you don't respect this girl, I respect her, so stop talking. I'm not going to listen to this. And of course, it's sometimes hard, but what that meant is that only the most moral people were my friends. The people who were not very moral, just went away. So what the heck with them?
That reminds me of also the topic of choosing friends, because when you surround yourself with moral friends, it's really important.
Well, your personality, whether you like it or not, is going to be very much influenced by your friends. Like, choosing friends is as important as choosing life. If your friends are liars, you're gonna learn lying. If your friends are sleazy, you're gonna learn sleazy. Most of the kids that end up in prison, it's not that they're criminals, but it's that they became friends with criminals. And because of that, they got into trouble and ended up going to prison. I would say, your friends are really, and I tell you one thing, there's one rule that will save you your entire life, just if you stick to honesty. Because if you find that your friendship with someone makes you into a liar, then that's not a good relationship. Because if it was a good relationship, you wouldn't have to lie about it. And if you make it as a rule, I'm never going to lie, just by that one rule, you'd find that you would never have a friend that puts you in a situation where you would have to lie. So if you just stick to that one rule of honesty, you'll find everything else works itself out.
So I guess we could do another question. We do a quick question. Well, quick-ish. I know we were talking about parapsychology. You said people develop it. Is there a way to develop it?
Yeah, parapsychology is...
It's called parapsychology, right?
Yeah, para. P-A-R-A. That's psychology. It depends on what type of sense you're talking about, but if you read about it, or you read in this field, you discover that most human beings are born with many different abilities, including the ability to affect things with your mind, or the ability to be very sensitive to evil, or the ability to pick up on bad energy, or the ability to, sometimes be sensitive to, but a lot of it requires not just knowledge, but a lot of discipline. And if you read in that field, you discover that like one of the ways that you develop your abilities is like the type of yoga that Sharif does, where you but as a Muslim, I'll tell you that the best way to develop is prayer and supplications, like dua, because the closer you are to God, the bigger your abilities.
What can you explain what supplications and dua are? Because maybe do you know what supplications and dua are?
I don't know what supplications, I know dua.
Well, dua is like basically when you pray to God.
Yeah, it's like what you do after prayer.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like,
Yeah, and there are things that I could teach you that you could just saying it a lot will, and also I'll tell you that for Islam, like the more pure you are as a human being, the greater your abilities. So because sin is like dirt, it comes in and it covers over your senses. It covers over your mental abilities, your spiritual abilities, your perception abilities. And the less sin or the more repentance, the sharper your abilities. And so, like, the most powerful people are often, they do a lot of fasting, a lot of worshiping, a lot of, so you find, like, if you ever saw, like, Buddhist monks who probably have the most amazing abilities and Islam is very similar to that. Like, you do a lot of worship, a lot of contemplation, a lot of fasting, a lot of humility, a lot of patience, a lot of perseverance, and it just depends on how far you want to get. Do you want to get to a point where basically you can walk in a place and see jinn around you, or do you want to get to a point where you see jinn and angels, or do you want to get to a point where you can just sense things, because each thing has its form of exercise that you do, but it just depends. Okay.
Cool.
that was surprisingly quick.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
that was good.
Thank you. Until next week.
Wow.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.